This is Wrestling with Wrestling's Past and Present. I'm Tim Kurt.
I'm Roland Fulis.
And I'm Mongo.
And today we have a very special guest joining us for episode 126.
Stay safe and always stay passionate.
Ladies and gentlemen, friend of the show, Jonathan Life joining us again.
Hey, what's up? Thanks for having me, guys.
No problem. You remember Jonathan? He was our first guest ever on the show, episode 17. We've come a long way. A little bit's changed since then, I think, right?
A lot has changed. A lot has definitely changed then. For the better.
It's awesome to have you back too. Like, it's cool that, it just shows that we're doing something right. We're growing, you have the interest to want to come back on here and just kind of, shoot the shit about wrestling a little bit, more about, what you got going on. And then, we can talk about some old school stuff like you'd mentioned. And, we just like talking wrestling, man.
Yeah, always. That's all I ever do. I feel like I get annoying all the time just with like my family and my fiance, because I don't really go out much. I just go and do my stuff here and then that's it. Like it's everything's wrestling, man. There's not a time where I'm not listening to it, whether it be a podcast or like theme songs or watching it or playing the games or something, man. It's always been my life. It's been therapeutic. It was my first love before I met my fiance, before I had my baby. Pro wrestling's what, kept me together through the toughest times of my life. And even not so long ago, like around 2 years ago when everything went to shit, wrestling was there. It was the only thing that was there. So it helped me in more ways than one. And I'm super grateful for it. Like, I don't know who I'd be, where I'd be, or what I'd be without pro wrestling, if I'm being honest with you. So
yeah, and I think that's, every wrestling fan, I think, agrees with that. We're kind of like a little family, and, wrestling gets us through hard times. It provides us entertainment. And it lets us escape reality a little bit. And I think we certainly needed that. I know I did the last couple of years with the whole pandemic going on and everything like that. So it's awesome. And thank you for reaching out to us to come back on. Something we've been meaning to do. It's just, but we're glad to have you on now. But yeah, so you kind of mentioned it. So congratulations. Since we last saw you, have a fiance now and a baby. So how's life as a father now?
It is just it's so crazy, man, because like I'm once in a while, like I'll take a glance at my son and I'll he'll be laughing with me and we'll be looking at each other and it's like, wow, like this is a product of me and my fiance. And I've been with my fiance for like 7 years, and we've been together since high school and whatever, and she was always there to help me and support me through wrestling and everything. And I don't know, I think that was just one thing that I never thought I'd have, is a family, be engaged, let alone have a son. Because I always put wrestling first. That was work for me. Wrestling was work. It wasn't like, it was fun, but that's how I would get my finances. That's how I would pay bills, was through wrestling, through merchandise, through sponsorships. And it's a lot to be on the road, but now completely a whole like just having a completely new life, like no wrestling, no traveling, just being at home, being a father, being a fiance and soon to be husband. It's a crazy but beautiful experience, man. I think it's helped me grow a lot as a man, as a person. And my mind has changed on different aspects of my opinions back then aren't the same right now. You get me? Like, I think just as a dad, like as a father, everything just changes. Your mindset, And I think
Priorities.
yeah, priorities, everything
Yeah.
changes, and it's for the better. I like to believe it's for the better because for the longest time, I was just like in a dark place right before we had the baby. I was just like in a dark place mentally. I wasn't really speaking to anyone, like not my family, not even my friends. I was just like in this dark hole. And just my fiance saved me by being there for me, helping me out, and then my baby boy came along, and yeah, it's been such a blessing, and I can't thank God enough for allowing me to live through this, like being able to say like I'm a dad, and it's the most proudest it's the proudest thing. It's the number one achievement in my entire life, and nothing will ever top the birth of my son. So
That's awesome.
it's very cool.
That's so awesome to hear. And I just want to point out, I still have goosebumps from your Always Stay Passionate, promo that we played, just because I think that tagline is so awesome, because the best thing you can be in life is passion. And hearing your passion, what you just told us about being there, is awesome. And I liked your teaser saying you're getting back in the ring, you're getting ready to come back, and you still have that passion. So I'm excited to meet you. I've been, a fan following you, watching you grow. So definitely excited to talk about your upcoming journey.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
Before I get into that, though, serious question: how many wrestling action figures does your son have already?
Not a lot. Actually,
Not a lot?
Everyone's just been buying him like a bunch of like baby toys. In fact, there's one right here on the table.
That's a classic, though. That's a classic.
So I'm not a father myself, but Roland's obviously father, Mongo's a father, and so I know the toys that they'll just gather all over your house eventually.
Well, I'm a big collector, so I do have. So I've shared locker rooms with a lot of super cool people. So I've shared locker rooms with like Ricky Starks, Keith Lee, Thunder Rosa, Brian Cage, Aaron Solo. I'm trying to think. Raymond Rowe. Just a bunch of these big names, and it's cool. Like now, I saw earlier today that the Rival series, right, for AEW, it's Ricky, Brian Cage, and Thunder Rosa in that line. And it's like, oh, cool. I've shared locker rooms with them. I've hung out with them, taken pictures with them. And it's just cool to see how, like, 5-6 years ago, or not even that long ago, I was sharing locker rooms with them, being booked on the same shows as them. And now here they are in one of the biggest wrestling promotions, if not, in my opinion, the biggest, just because of the star power that's there. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to collect the figures that like have been there for me. Like when I first met Keith Lee, the only time I met Keith Lee, it was so cool because it was like in this place, New Braunfels, Texas. And so I walk into the locker room and the only person there is Keith. And Keith is like this huge guy. And I'm just like, it's like, okay. Like obviously I'm a big fan because he's done like his stuff in PWG. Like he was already like big. I think he was already gonna sign to WWE. And so I go to shake Keith's hand and he's like, hey man, how are you? Just very genuine human being. And it was me and my friend Johnny, and he was just talking to us, and we got along great. I had worked people that he's worked, so we were talking like, oh, how was your experience working this guy? And he was like, oh, this guy has to slow down. And I was like, yeah, I agree. I got a little blown up. And then from there we got along, and right before the show ended, he was like, anytime you go to San Antonio, hit me up on Twitter so we can train together. And I swear to God, me and my friend Johnny looked at each other and we're like, we're not going to message him because we are not on his level. And we regret it every single day. I know I do, because now Keith is doing these big things. Like I was at the Rumble 2020 when he came out and had this amazing moment with Brock. And I was just like on the nosebleeds. And I was like, that's crazy. Like I went from, here's my Twitter handle, hit me up when you're in San Antonio so we can train together. And here he is at the Minute Maid Park, face to face with Brock in the Royal Rumble. Like those things are just crazy. So I have like a Keith Lee figure over there. I'm trying to get a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat because I did a Ricky the Dragon Steamboat seminar
That's
in
awesome.
2018, and
Oh.
it's till this day what he taught us for like those 2-3 hours. I use it like in every match, in every when it comes down to psychology. Like he just broke it down piece by piece. He talked about his match with like Macho Man. So I'm just trying to get the figures with the people that I've like met and had like a
Yeah.
personal connection with. So for me, it was like quality over quantity. So I am slowly building up my collection of action figures, but because there's a story to each and every single one of those figures. So
Yeah, it
it's
makes it more
pretty cool.
special.
Yeah.
As
I
you can
could-
tell, looking behind Mongo there, he's got quantity over quality.
Well, no, mine is everyone's first figure in AEW because I figure it's the only time I'm old enough to get there first. So it's everyone's first in the line, but still, I came out to like 40-something figures. Thankfully, my wife's like, "You got to do this. It's cool." Like I'm lucky.
Yeah. I understand, dude, because I'm very picky. I'm super picky. So because like there's all these Ricky the Dragon Steamboat figures, but I'm like, that's not what Ricky looked like that day. So I'm focused on like the head scan. You get me? Like the head scan has to kind of be perfect. Um, so I'm always looking at the head scans, the gear, and also like I've taken pictures with like Shinsuke, Sami Zayn, Becky Lynch, Jason Jordan. So I gotta take pictures of those too, just because like as a fan, that was like a big moment for me. Um, so I'm just trying to get all that stuff together and have like my wall with like the figure and then the picture like a frame
That's
right
awesome.
next to it. So the story is told right there. So when my son grows up, he's like, "Oh, that's why Dad has these toys of these people." It would just make a lot of sense. So it's cool, man. I just got into the collecting, so it's been pretty fun.
He's like, "Oh, that's why I can't play with them." That picture right there is why I can't play with them.
Yeah, you can't touch it, man. You can't touch it. Anything else you can touch, just not the figures.
But no, I 100% agree that when you become a father, especially for the first time, it instantly makes you have to grow up a lot. Like you're like, okay, it's not just me, it's not just my girl, it's this poor innocent little baby that like if I don't do something right, like I'm gonna ruin him or her. And it's like, it's a lot of pressure, but it's also very rewarding, I guess is probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. It's a lot of sacrifice, right? Um, but I the sacrifices are very worth it in the end. And the one thing I'll say is that like I've never been a man of patience. Like I've always just been like go 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 go. Traveling or wrestling or anything, I never had patience with like anything. And now I'm forced to have patience with my son.
Yep.
He just turned 6 months, so but he's great. He's a great little guy. He's hilarious, and my whole family was like just so like in love with him. They're always like FaceTiming, trying to see how he's doing. And it's the support from both like my family and my fiance's have been really like super cool. So it's awesome. And I'm only 23. Like I'm a young dad, so there's a lot of room to grow with him, because I'm not, you know, I'm not even anywhere near complete in anything. You get me? Like you never stop learning, you never stop growing mentally and learning all these different things now as a dad and as a man. So all these responsibilities are lined up for me to um, make sure that they get done and it happens and set the right path for him and set an example, because of him. So it's a lot of pressure, but I believe it's worth it.
Absolutely. So we mentioned, earlier or at the beginning of the show, the pandemic hit us, since the last time we talked and everything, which I know has been a pretty difficult time for everyone. It kind of adjusted how we had to record and do the show. And I know it affected wrestling for you. So can you just talk about like how you've kind of managed through the pandemic? Like what got you through it? I know you mentioned watching a lot of old wrestling helped you get through it. You want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So the pandemic happened, and this was like summer 2020. And I was like, man, I just mentally need to go back to when I was just like obsessed with wrestling, where I'd be failing school just because I wasn't paying attention. I'd just be thinking like, what's gonna happen on Raw? What's gonna happen on SmackDown? So what really got me was the Raw, not the Raw. Well, yeah, I guess like the summer of 2013 in general um, was one of my favorites because it was the Daniel Bryan like come up. And dude, like you guys need to go and watch like from June 2013 till like September 2013, every Raw and every SmackDown. Um, because Daniel Bryan is just having these amazing matches, dude. Like, and I mean, they're so good. The one that sticks with me the most is, I think it was mid July, and it was a Raw 2013. It was Sheamus versus Daniel Bryan. I think this was leading to Money in the Bank, or maybe it was the aftermath leading to John Cena choosing Daniel Bryan eventually. But like those matches were so good, dude. And like I just SummerSlam 2013 is also like one of my favorites, and I just like SummerSlam was like my first pay per view that I went to live, and I was born in August, so there's all these things that connect to that. The like Raw 2013 in general, just that whole year alone was so great, and I think just watching and studying, like, hey, no one's really doing that. Like there was this spot where Sheamus did a shoulder tackle to Daniel Bryan, and instead of doing the drop down, Daniel Bryan kind of just stays on his back, and Sheamus jumps over him. So when he leaps over Daniel, Daniel kicks up and hits him with like a drop kick. And I just thought it was the smoothest thing ever because it's like I've never thought about that. Like just stay down, kick up, and go for a drop kick. And I mean, once again, like Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, to me is the greatest wrestler of all time. Like Eddie Guerrero was the foundation for me to like he opened the doors for me to like as a Mexican, as someone that was born in Texas, not the biggest guy. Eddie was the guy, but now I can't. There's only so much Eddie footage I can study. You get me? Daniel Bryan has evolved through the years, especially right now, what he's doing with the Blackpool Combat Club. Like, so what he was doing back then, he was ahead of the curve. And then I started watching like Bret Hart matches, Shawn Michaels matches, and I mean like 92, 93 Bret and Shawn. A lot of Mr. Perfect. I think Mr. Perfect is just so good in like in the selling, in just the way he worked his character. The simplest of headlocks, he would just hold it and he'd be flexing, he'd be like showing off his hair, and just talking shit to the crowd, like every single one of them, like, hey, fuck you, you're not good. And that's why I was like, he's literally perfect, dude. Like he just, and I love the perfect plex too. So old school wrestling was so cool because for me, what's old is new. Because now I'm not one to be like a hater. Like all I've done is independent wrestling. So I've thrown my super kicks, I've done my Canadians, and I've done the suicide dives. Myself personally, but I do agree that it's been overly done. So now, because of I want to stand out from all that and kind of make make it more authentic, make it more fresh, because you don't really see all that stuff. Like I don't think I've ever seen anyone do that Daniel Bryan spot since that match. You get me? Like I've been watching at least every single. Like I've watched Impact, AEW, WWE, New Japan, and no one still hasn't done that specific Daniel Bryan spot. I mean, I've seen it and I have it in my back pocket, so I'm gonna use it. So
Awesome.
that's how old school wrestling helped me so much because it was just studying, and I would just be typing it down on my phone or I'll be writing it down. Right now, I have like a composition notebook filled with promos and ideas for gear and theme songs and gimmicks for me and the match types I want to have, the move sets I'm gonna hit. So to me, this is my passion. You get me? Like I will watch hours upon hours of tape on anyone, and I will use it for a specific person. Maybe there's this guy who's taller than me. Maybe he's the same height as me, but a bit more, muscular and wide. So I can use these moves, and that's why I've cut it down like piece by piece to essentially like nitpick what I can do, what works and what doesn't, as a heel, as a face, as a tweener. Um, so yeah, man, it's been a lot of studying throughout these last 2 years, and I still haven't stopped. Like I'm not gonna stop. So it's been cool to just going back and seeing like, wow, that works, and it's still gonna work, and it's been working, because some people are still out there doing the thing, and that's the beauty of wrestling, is that it keeps going, and it's a blessing to be living right now through this era of wrestling, because excuse me, because maybe 20, 30 years from now, people are going to look back during this time and think, wow, this shit's awesome. It was so special. And like now, I mean, to me, I can tell you that I shed tears when CM Punk returned at the United Center in August. Dude, I was just watching, in 2020, I was watching like Raw 2013. Besides Daniel Bryan, I was watching the Punk and Brock Lesnar feud building up to SummerSlam. I thought it was fantastic. And that was also the same year in 2013 when he lost the title to The Rock. And then he had that amazing match with John Cena in Dallas to see who would face The Rock at WrestleMania. And then you had Punk and Taker. So there was a lot of Punk and Bryan. And then to see them both in AEW right now as regulars, it's, oh, man, like the kid inside me is like, holy shit, dude, this is amazing. And I know back in the first time I was here, I was like, oh, it doesn't matter where I'd be. 100% I'd want to be in AEW, if not New Japan Pro Wrestling. I love getting hit, dude. I am a psychopath, but I enjoy seeing the blood, feeling the blood, and like going. And I enjoy getting hit because that adrenaline rush is like, okay, I got to get you back. Boom. And I never pulled back.
I was gonna say you should have faced Minoru Suzuki. Then that dude looks like he would just murder you in the ring. But no, I think it's cool. I definitely noticed your moveset. I saw you doing some yes kicks and some of your promo packages. I definitely noticed too. You did a Bret Hart style headlock a few times, so I think it's really cool to hear you explain that. You kind of do what's actually kind of popular now with like FTR, where you're taking something from the past and you're bringing it in. And I think it's cool to hear why you do it. Again, going back to you're always passionate, so. That's awesome. Yeah, Roland cried too when CM Punk came back, because he was the I'll believe it when I see it mentality, and I got man tears from him. So me as well. So I think.
And to Jonathan's point, the fact that he's not a part-timer, the fact that he's at every show, I mean, they're definitely oversaturating him a little bit. They need to kind of pull it back just a smidge. They're kind of, it's one of those things where they're forcing it a little bit too much. I mean, I know the lead up to Hangman Page and Punk is going to be really good. But that's one of the first things I said, is that it looks like he's going to be there every week, just like everybody else. And he's not going to just take the big money and come in like Brock would. And that was one thing I gave Brock credit for this last run, was that he was there pretty much every week. And that's huge.
Yeah. Now, and honestly, I love what they're doing right now. It's cool to see, man. It's cool to see all these, like, I have my best friend, one of my best friends, Victor, is the guy who introduced me to Ring of Honor New Japan back in middle school. And he showed me Punk and Brian and Joe and like Chris Hero and Austin Aries and all that stuff, Nigel McGuinness. But now it's cool to literally see like guys like Jonathan Gresham and Dalton Castle, like I guess like the now roster with like guys like Samoa Joe, Punk, Jay Lethal, who's been there for a while, like Adam Cole, Red Dragon, the Young Bucks. One of my favorite things that I would love to watch would be highlights with Red Dragon versus the Young Bucks, because they did like All-Star Extravaganza. They did I can't remember, Battle of the Worlds. I can't remember what it was called, but the Red Dragon and Young Bucks went at it in Ring of Honor, New Japan, now AEW. So it's just one of those feuds where it's like a full circle moment, and I think everything right now is just so sick, dude. Like it is so beautiful right now, and it's the biggest reason why I just had like a doctor's appointment, and I did a bunch of tests, did some blood work. Thank God everything came out pretty good. So I'm already looking at what cities to hit up here in Texas, what promotions to go to. I'm already talking to multiple promotions, choosing dates, and I would like for this summer to be a pretty fun one, man. Because like the summer of Punk. I mean, yeah, I guess you could say the summer of Punk, but like the summer of Cena, dude. Like when he came back after Roman and Edge, I was jumping up and down. I was so excited, and my fiance was pregnant, and I couldn't hold my excitement. Like during her whole pregnancy, so much happened. John Cena worked Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. Brock came back, Becky came back, CM Punk came back. We had Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega, and it was just like, dude, all these things are happening, and these are the things that I would literally think about, like in high school, like in senior year. During that time, Kenny Omega had just faced Okada, the first time, and dude, all I would think of and study is like, man, imagine if like Kenny Omega were to face Bryan Danielson, and all those those dumb dream match scenarios have already happened, dude. It's insane. Like I love where we're at right now, and in this moment right now, it's, dare I say it, perfect on both ends, honestly. So.
Yeah, I think wrestling's definitely they've adapted well to the pandemic. We've come a long way from the empty arena shows to the Thunderdome to now where the pandemic's kind of slowing down. We're kind of back to what makes wrestling great is the fan interaction, the crowd, and everything. So I echo your points exactly. So kind of what's your plan to kind of hint that you're going to try to go to different, get some promotions lined up for you. So what's the future for Jonathan Life looking like?
Before we jump to that, like since the pandemic started, how many matches have you had? That's the biggest thing, is that you have to remember there's people like Jonathan Life, there's other independent wrestlers that have been affected by this that may not come back to wrestling because they couldn't afford to. They didn't have the ability to. So that's the one thing I want to point out, is that even though he's had so much happen in his life, he's so damn passionate that like he's like, no, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to find my way back. And I guarantee you, there's wrestlers that he's not going to see anymore. And it's going to suck because like, oh, this dude was so good. Like, and he's out like selling lumber at, Home Depot, because that's what he had to do to get his family by.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's been the biggest takeaway for me, is that I didn't want to be in that. Like I understood that I had to have patience to some degree. Like I was bummed out with 1 month without wrestling. It's been 2 years, but the night one of WrestleMania, it was the first time when in the morning I went to this facility here in Laredo, and there's like multiple wrestling rings, and it's like this little nice place that they've developed. There's crash pads, there's like wrestling dummies, there's everything, and I was all alone in this place, man, and I was getting a little emotional because I was like, I had not been near a ring since March of 2020.
I was going to say, I'm sure he knows the date of the last time he was in the ring, though.
I know the last time I had a match was February 28th, 2020.
There you
and
go.
then the last time I was in a ring just for like a segment was March 13th, 2020. And since then I had, until this last like April, this like the beginning of this month, I had not been near a ring, been inside one, bumped. So in that video where like the very first bump I'd taken that video, that was like raw footage. Like originally I wasn't gonna make like this whole like music and everything add to it, but I didn't want to make it all depressing. But in the video I explained like the story, like what I just said, like February 28th, 2020, blah, blah, blah. I had a match. March 13th, 2020 was the last time I stepped foot because of a segment / promo I had to do to build up a match. And, dude, I was just like, I took my first bump and I was like, dude, I could still do this. Like, it feels like I was just here yesterday. And I think that was the biggest takeaway from being in there, running the ropes, taking the bumps, doing the rolls. I love it. And I wouldn't say I need it, but there's times where I've been very miserable without it. And I'm very happy for my friends that were able to still be like, fucking no, like, I'm, whether I get sick or not, I got to do it. And I mean, hats off to them for wanting to not give up on their passion, their dream, their career, etc. And I'm happy for everyone that still managed to keep going. And for me, it got a little real with the sense of having a baby, getting engaged, all great stuff. But it'd be cool to add wrestling again to that list of, hey, I'm married, I'm a dad, and I'm wrestling. So it's something that I'm very I guess I would say I'm very focused on that goal of making that a reality. Like, I've been dreaming and I've been waiting these last 2 years to just finally have a match back. And I don't know, man. Like, I always think about, like, my first match back. Like, how is that gonna be? Like, am I gonna cry before? Or am I gonna cry after? Like, I'm so damn passionate about it that um, I got to give myself credit for all that I've done leading up to wanting to come back. Um, like, I invested in like a bunch of gear, dude. Like, I invested in a bunch of gear during the pandemic to see when, if and when I come back, this is what I'm gonna wear. These are the knee pads I'm gonna wear. These are the kick pads, the biker shorts, the trunks, the tights. Like, I bought a little bit of everything from like High Spots. Got some custom made gear. Still have not worn any of it. And I just have like hundreds, like, just worth of hundreds of dollars worth of just brand new gear just in the closet waiting for it.
So I guess instead of the Summer of Punk, it's going to be the Equinox of Life.
It could be, man. I hope so.
But I think
do you have? You've been talking to promotions and stuff like that. Do you have any leads on like a potential date yet, or can you not really say that yet?
I can't really say that yet. Like, I do know, but
you did shake your head that you had a potential date, so you gave us enough without telling us.
Yeah,
so that's awesome.
It's been just so, and it's been cool because after I like dropped that video that you were talking about, like, that John Cena one was pretty cool because a lot of people are like, oh, like, I got a bunch of promoters, like, hey man, can you come? And I was like, by that time, my fiance was already pregnant, and I was like I can't do it. So it was one thing after another. One thing was like, well, the pandemic, the numbers are still high here in Texas. Because I know it was like it died down like somewhere in like California or something. So people here in Texas thought, okay, we're good to go too. But it's like, no, we're not California, brother. And then, well, my fiance got pregnant, and it's like, well, now I can't do it because I gotta take care of my fiance while, she stays healthy for all this. So it was just all the timings was never correct. And I'm not saying the timings right now, but I'm trying to make it work. I'm making the effort of seeing where I'm at mentally, physically, and getting, like, going to the doctors, making these appointments, making the efforts to once again see where I'm at, what I'm able to do, what I'm capable of doing, what my limits are, and going from there. And I think that's been the best thing to do, is to just play it safe, not just for my health, but for the health and safety of my son and my fiance. So once again, the quality over quantity also applies to my potential return. Like, I'm not going to be taking like all these bookings that I was doing, like, oh, I'll do like 6 matches in 2 weeks type of. So I'm just going to cut it down and work with it. And I think that's the most, like, the special part about it is, once again, the quality over the quantity, because it's these matches that I'm trying to have. I want to make them mean something, and they are going to mean something, especially my first match back. I think that's the most important one to me, is how that one goes. And that's the one that I've been working on like 24/7. So stay tuned for that one.
I think your message and your story is a good example to everybody, because you took something that, you know, a lot of people would think is a negative with the pandemic, and it basically, for lack of a better term, it took your passion away for a while because you weren't able to do what you love to do in the ring. But you also turned it into a positive because you used that time to study other wrestlers to better yourself. And you, like you said, you have the notebook where you're developing, you know, characters that, you know, as a heel, as a face, as a tweener, like you mentioned. So I think your message is a really strong one, because you took a negative and turned it into a positive, and you turned it into a time where you use it to better yourself and better your character.
Yeah, man, 100%. Yeah, thank you. You know, I think the message is to, you know, remember who you are. Remember why you, like, just go back to when you were a kid, and you remember like the love and obsession and passion you had over it, and like why it was so important. And that's why I did what I had to do, is go back and like I have a PSP, right? So I started playing like SmackDown vs. Raw 2007, SmackDown vs. Raw 2008 on the PSP.
Yes.
Even though I have like a
Yes.
PS4, I have an Xbox Series X here, but I'm still going to the past to get that love back, and that nostalgia feel, which what brought me to the dance was the emotions I felt. I was like, man, I wonder if I'm ever in the ring. This is like, anytime I've gotten a wrestling game, I've always created myself.
Mhm.
That's the first thing I always did, create myself, like nothing else. And I just
Sorry, my cat made a cameo.
oh no, you know, so I'm glad I was able to, you know, put my feelings in the right place, in the sense of like, you know what, don't be sad about it, but let's watch this. Let's be in this moment. Let's go back to when there was no panic, when it was just perfect. And you know, it's perfect now. Like watching it right now, dude, it's so cool.
You know, I find it funny too, because we talk all the time that I don't understand the people who just, they only like WWE, you know, rip apart someone who likes AEW, or someone who only likes AEW who will rip apart someone who likes WWE. And it's like you said, we're all passionate about wrestling, and that's why the three of us are doing this podcast and have the pleasure of having you on, because we love wrestling. We're passionate about it. We love the history of it. We love where it's going to go. Clearly, I'm obsessed with the toys and figures. I agree with you. I think we have to remind ourselves why we're passionate. This podcast helped me, and you know, it's cool hearing you talk about the games, because Roland and I were talking about the 2K game. It was cool to have a game that finally played decent again. I'm excited for that AEW game coming out this September. So I mean,
I'm so excited.
But what was your favorite console game? I'm gonna put you on the spot here. What was your favorite console game that you played?
You have one choice, one chance. Don't mess this up. You have to pick one. What is it?
It's pretty easy. It's my favorite video game of all time. It's WWE All Stars on the PS3.
Wow.
Ooh,
I got the DLC, and I got everyone. I got like Chris Jericho. I got Cody Rhodes. I got R-Truth, I think. I got like that whole DLC pack, and I love playing All Stars. It was just so. I just love the colors. I like how exaggerated it was, but it also had like the old school wrestlers. You know, it had Shawn Michaels hitting like the super kick, and it's just so unique. Every wrestler there had its own. It was them, like it was their character, and they put a lot of effort into each character, into each gimmick, like Jake the Snake and like Mr. Perfect doing the perfect plex. They would make him do like 3 backflips or whatever.
Awesome.
Which I'm probably sure he could have done.
Right?
But, you know, yeah, my favorite video game of all time, like just in general, like not even wrestling game, but just of all time, is All Stars, and for the PS3 specifically.
He would have done the 3 backflips, then he would have got up and spit the gum and slapped it.
I always do that. I love Mr. Perfect. I'll do it in front of my son, and my son's just kind of like, "Why are you doing that?"
What are you doing?
Your son's like, look at this jackass. Like,
Pick up the gum, man. I'm gonna step on it.
Right?
You know, but yeah, it's got. What about you guys? What's y'all's pick?
Mongo, would you say Here Comes the Pain, or would you say, that's where I would go? So backstory: Mongo and I would spend, hours at our friend Glenn's house, and there'd be like 4 or 5, 6 of us: Frank, Kenny, Glenn. Just there'd be so many, and we would play like Hell in the Cell matches against each other, and like we'd switch sides and hours. I wish we had a counter as to how long we spent playing that game.
I wasn't invited to those sessions.
Kids, you were like 5.
I know. I'm gonna go.
That would be like inviting Jonathan. He wasn't even born yet. Like, what the hell? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, we're old. Tim. Thanks for reminding us.
That's right.
Yeah,
well,
thanks.
I'm actually gonna go older than you for the video game because I think my favorite was No Mercy for the N64.
Wow.
That's because it's the last console you bought.
But I want to give a shout out to the Legends of Wrestling games. I know they're not WWE affiliated, but the Legends of Wrestling games are really cool.
Yeah,
they're really cool, really authentic.
I will recommend Retromania if you haven't played it yet. It came out, I think, on the Switch and the PlayStation. It's like the old Super Nintendo feel of it. It's like it has like all the NWA talent in it. Like I literally played Matt Cardona versus Nick Aldis, and then had Warhorse like the next match. I'm like, this is freaking sick. So if you haven't checked that, I recommend that one.
Yeah, the only reason why I wanted the game is because of Matt Cardona. Like,
yes.
I one of my favorite wrestlers growing up was actually Zack Ryder. Like, my first profile picture on Facebook was me at a SmackDown live event with the Broski shirt, and I have the Zack Ryder fist pump, I have the Zack Ryder Statue of Liberty shirt, I have the Zack Ryder the Broski one with the headband and the glasses. I have so much Zack Ryder merch. I thought Zack Ryder was the coolest guy, and I honestly I wanted to do a lot of merch because of Zack Ryder. He's amazing. So I love Matt Cardona. Like, I would pay him myself. I would book him just to tell him thank you for being, like, he was just someone I grew up with. Z True Long Island Story. I created him on All Stars. It was so cool, man. I love that guy. That guy's awesome.
You would happily take the pin against Matt Cardona.
That's the king of deathmatch wrestling, man. So.
Yes.
I love him.
So cool. I love the level of troll. Like, so you got to remember, if for the fans that may not know, I mean, Zack Ryder, back when he was in WWE, got himself over and pretty much punished for getting himself over. And he still keeps doing it to this day. And he keeps more or less like telling Vince, hey, fuck you. Look what I did. I did this on my own without you. I'm more popular than you could have ever made me, which is true because they wouldn't have used him right. And it's evidence as the fact that, they had the thing with Eve, they push him off a stage with a friggin' wheelchair. Yeah, it just evidence. It's like, that's my fear about Cody going back there is he's going to have this initial push, and then when Vince gets tired of him, he's going to be Zack Ryder. And it's going to be like, oh, man.
No, and I love when Mike Cardona won the NWA title, and he had like the Christian Cage-inspired trunks. Oh, man. When it comes down to like the gimmick, like the T-shirts, the gear, the way he finishes his matches, the promotions he's working, like I love what he's doing right now. Like, I saw him live at WrestleMania 32 when he won the Intercontinental title.
That's sick.
I was happy. Like, this was me. Like, I would have never thought that the guy from YouTube, the wrestler from YouTube, would be at WrestleMania winning the Intercontinental title. One of the most prestigious titles. Think of the prestige, man.
And it was the white strap title, which that's my favorite Intercontinental belt.
Yeah,
just in that, like you said, and we talked about Razor on our special too. Like, seeing that belt, seeing him win it. I'm a Cardona mark. Roland picks on me for it all the time, but I'm a huge Cardona mark myself too.
I only pick on him because it's fun to do. I think that you have to no matter what you think about Matt Cardona, you have to respect the hustle, because clearly he wouldn't be where he was if he didn't have the hustle.
No, he's a creative genius. Like, he knows his stuff because he's such a mark himself. He's such a fan of pro wrestling. That's why he does the Major Wrestling Figure podcast or whatever, and he has like his YouTube, and he does all this stuff now. Like, he's so involved with wrestling, whether it be doing it or collecting it or playing with it. Like, he is so involved with it that he would not want to do anything else. I can't picture him doing anything else but being a wrestler or being involved with the wrestling business in general. You can't leave it. Like, what else are you gonna do? Like, work at a Burger King. I don't know, dude. Like it's just wrestling's everything. So you're in it for life, in my opinion. So
Have you seen his latest troll job?
no, I've
So-
not seen that. Yet.
So the NWA pay-per-view coming up, he demanded that they changed it to Always Ready, which is like his tagline. So that's the name of the pay-per-view.
No,
And
it isn't.
it has, yes, it's the name of the pay-per-view. And everything's co-branded instead of NWA. It's the it's MC NWA logo. So he's got this whole ass pay-per-view branded. And all the traditional NWA fans are like losing their minds. I'm like, he's just rolling and he's laughing away to the bank. So I agree with you.
That's so cool, dude. So genius. Like it's those things that you wish you would have thought of. And I feel like every indie wrestler looking at Matt Cardona is like, this guy was never an indie wrestler. This guy was literally for the longest time. Like I said, this guy was the IC chit. Like he won the Intercontinental title at WrestleMania, one of the biggest ones. Like it was a sold out crowd. I still imagine. Like I looked around. Because I was kind of like by the floor, so looking around, dude, it was insane. Especially during like the Bray Wyatt entrance when they did that whole segment with The Rock. I was at the AT&T Stadium, and I wanted to go this year just because of Cody. I knew he was gonna be there, and that would have been so cool to see. But I was like, man, and it wasn't that packed because I had friends that went and they're like, yeah, there's a bunch of seats like available, like. And I'm Mexican, so all my family members could have been there, dude. And we probably could have packed it up. So you know,
They all would have came in one car too.
just one after another. Shout out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Cardona is another example of turning a negative into a positive, getting released from WWE, and his career's obviously he's turned that negative into a positive. His career is flourishing beyond it ever has. So we've been really inspirational today. We're not usually this inspirational on our podcast.
I know we usually spend all the time shitting on each other.
I know.
And me too. Like my friend who introduced me to like Ring of Honor New Japan. Here I am shitting on because he's a big EC3 fan. Like he buys all.
Oh, I'm sorry.
If you're listening to this episode, we apologize.
And I love him. But his favorite wrestlers have always been like the weird ones, like Ryback. Ryback, EC3. I don't know who else he was so into, but like the most one that the number one that like in my head is just Ryback. Every Ryback shirt he had, dude. The Feed Me More, the.
You gotta find him a Skip Sheffield shirt as a joke.
Dude, he loves him. He quotes. He knows the quotes. He's like Skip Sheffield.
God.
Yup. I was like, what are you talking about? He's gonna listen to this and he's gonna be like, yeah, you know, I fucking love fucking.
After he texts you and he's like, hey, fuck you. He's gonna text you and be like, yeah, but still.
You know, to each their own, man. There's, you know, he likes Brian Myers, which makes sense, right? Like we've been close, so I understand that Cardona, Brian Myers between him and I. But like Brian Myers, EC3, Ryback, it's like, what the fuck? Hold up.
He's going for all the Marty Jannetty's. Like that's and here you are like Shawn Michaels, baby, and he's like, yeah, I like Marty though. Like what the hell?
That's exactly
Sorry, Brian Myers.
Oh my gosh, but no, I mean it's cool, you know, to each their own, man. Like it's, you know, but and yesterday I was actually asking him, I was like, hey man, I was on Twitter, of course, the most non-toxic place ever.
Right.
Right.
For wrestling opinions too. So the question was, who's your number one wrestler? Like who's the greatest wrestler for you? So I told him, I was like, you know, because Eddie's not around anymore, unfortunately, I haven't been able to see him and, you know, as a profession. So I said Bryan Danielson. His answer was AJ Styles, and I was like, thank God. I was like, I'm so glad he didn't say Ryback. And then I was like, who would be your second one? He was like, John Moxley. And I was like, fair. You know, I was like, so, you know, I think once in a while, like he comes to his senses and he's like, all right, I got to choose people that are, you know, good at this. I'm not saying that Ryback's not good, but fuck, man,
He's
made
not
CM
good.
Punk
You
leave.
don't have. It's fine. He's not good. You don't have to try to save that one because he's not. Yeah. You see the table spot where he dumps Punk pretty much straight on the floor, and then Punk literally was like, "Are you stupid, or are you just?" He's like, "Oh, dude, I'm stupid."
Yeah, no,
It's like, man,
it's just so. It's stuff that you think is just made up. Why would Punk lie about that?
yeah.
It's just
Well, and
everlasting.
that's the other thing too. Like when you see the things on Twitter about like the polls of like where should I go next, and like it's like 94% retire, and then he like he thinks it's funny, and then he posts it like 2 months later, and he gets to retire again, and he's like, oh shit,
this is actually a shoot. Like people don't like.
But a lot of people love him though because he's got like 1 million something on YouTube, like 2 million on TikTok.
He does like these food reviews. Like I remember the most famous one was the Popeyes chicken sandwich. And he would send it to me. He's like, "Have you seen this yet?" I was like, "No, I haven't watched it. Why the fuck would I watch it?" There's a Popeyes like a few blocks away from my house. I can try it myself, dude. I don't need Ryback telling me if I should eat the chicken sandwich from Popeyes. So
yeah, he has like the different levels. He's like, this one's definitely on the feed me more level.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean,
Popeye's a list of companies I won't sponsor our show.
Yeah, Popeyes is out. Sorry,
Popeye.
Yeah,
but it's fun to have a friend to shit on their wrestling opinions because we're always just constantly arguing. Like the last topic we just had right now, right before this started, I asked him, I was like, "Hey man, there's all these trios in AEW." I was like, "There's the House of Black, there's Death Triangle, let's just say Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, and Red Dragon and Adam Cole." The Blackpool Combat Club, the Gun Club,
Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Christian. Yeah.
I was like, we have a lot of trios. Like, do you think we should, do you think AEW should have like the trios title, even though they already have the world title, the tag titles, the TNT title, the women's, and then the women's TBS? I'm like, you think it would be a smart idea to have the tag titles? And he responded with, yes, I would love them to have trios titles. I know everyone else on Twitter would be upset, but it'd be a great idea. And I was like, I'm on the fence on it. I would like to see the trios titles because of all the trios we have. Now with also the Jericho Appreciation Society too, I guess.
Santana, Ortiz, and Kingston, yeah.
So you just start putting all these together, and it's like, I don't know. What's y'all's take on that? Would you guys like to see trios titles, or is that too many titles already in AEW?
If they did it like under the ROH brand, I think it'd be perfect because then they could. That way, we'll look at AEW had too many. Kind of like how they have the ROH tag, the ROH Pure. They can do under that banner because just kind of resurrect them. That way they can use the history from them. Yeah, I think it'd be a great idea just because like even SU when they were together, they could have one more run before Daniels goes.
So that I like that idea. As we're talking about titles too, does it bother anyone that the TNT title is like the new 24/7 title in AEW? Does that bother anybody?
I saw the meme of take a look. What's the difference with the picture? And it's like, it's the same picture, and it was a TNT title and the 24/7 title. And I was like, I get it. I mean, look, I was a huge fan when they brought the TNT title. I was like, every time they've updated it, like with Cody and then Brody Lee and then Darby and then Miro. I think Miro was. I mean, I actually did enjoy when Sammy defeated Miro. Like, dude, that was like a huge moment. Like, people were behind them. It was pretty sick.
Well,
but then after that,
yeah,
it became like the interim TNT title, and my fiance was kept up with all of it. She's like, "Why is there 2 TNT titles hanging?" And I had to explain to her. It's like, okay, in UFC there's an interim title, so blah 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 blah. So I had to make like these, I had to like make it like this is how similar it is, like, and it just got so crazy. But then Sammy beating Cody in the ladder match was great. That was a great ladder match. I think Sammy and ladder matches is just perfect. Like I think it's meant to be. Like Scorpio and Sammy was actually really good. Like I did enjoy the match. The spots they had was sick. I like how Scorpio countered Sammy's cutter into his own cutter. Because, Scorpio actually does the cutter as like a finish. Sammy has more like the GTH and the 630 as opposed to Scorpio, this guy who actually uses a cutter to end the match, not just to hit it, So I thought like psychology wise and storytelling wise, I think it was a good move. I would have liked to see Ethan Page though, because Ethan Page has so much like charisma on the microphone, dude. It's insane. Like when he told Sammy like you and Ty are a walking PR nightmare. I was like, dude, that is so good.
Mhm.
That is so good. Like it's the stuff that I'm thinking about. And here's all ego Ethan Page just saying it and going off like, hey, no one wants to hear Sammy Guevara talk on a microphone. I was like, that's so good. That's so good. Like you just can't teach that stuff, dude. You know, that energy, that passion, like it's a life.
And
on
his
its own.
style. He's got that style too. That just
Yeah.
that Banana Republic heel, like
Yeah. Well, and like my biggest thing is that these matches have all been great, but
Mhm.
I just hate the title like flipping. I hate like what are they trying to make him be like Charlotte Flair and have like 20 reigns already as the like I just it to me it devalues the title just a little bit because like it just seems like well whoever has it never it's like Sasha Banks whoever has it never actually defends the damn thing they just lose it so
Yeah,
it
it
you
is
know she had
unfortunate.
that stigma for such a long time where she just couldn't she never defended the title she would lose it
Mhm.
and it's kind of how the TNT title is right now where it's like well Scorpio won but yeah Sammy just beat him and then Sammy just lost to Scorpio again and it's like you got to be careful flip-flopping. It's like
early
the Big Show.
2001 Intercontinental, early 2001 Intercontinental title when it was just like they kept hot potato in the IC title for a while. Yeah, I definitely understand and agree with that.
It's like the Big Show with heel and face turns.
Yeah,
It's like you guys got to slow down here.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't know. I do think it's a little weird because like when Brody Lee was the TNT champ, like I wished he would have had a longer run. I mean, it's crazy that his last match was against Cody and that dog collar match for the TNT title, and that was just Brody Lee's last match in general.
Yeah.
So I do see like the TNT title, like had Brody Lee not have like his health issues and not died, you know, that would have been cool if he was still around. Like he was someone that to me, like Brody was so cool. Like my favorite one, like I was never big on the Wyatt family, and if any interest I had was with Luke Harper against Dolph Ziggler at TLC. I don't know if you guys remember
Oh,
that.
dude, that was a
Cleveland.
banger.
It was so good. And then Luke Harper, like at WrestleMania 31, Luke Harper had his own good singles run. And then Luke Harper in 2017, when he was going against like Randy and everything, like like when he was in that battle royal with AJ Styles, and they both got eliminated or something like that, and they had a match. Like
when he saved,
like,
I never forget when he saved Ali when he was going to give, he was like holding Ali in the table spot. And he thought enough to lift his head up so he didn't smash his like face and head. So
Yeah.
just the care and compassion.
Yeah, and like I can tell you from that tribute show, dude, I probably cried like 4 times. I cried like 3 to 4 times. And now, like, I'm always thinking to myself, like, one day, like, when the time comes to have a match, I'm gonna end the match with a discus clothesline, because, like, in my head, I was like, man, like his wife and his 2 kids and like his little baby boy's like super young and like,
Yeah.
nah, man, I couldn't imagine, especially as a father now, it hurts even more to think about that. So,
Well,
God
and
bless
then when Rowan came out holding that sign, it's like, oh, dude, I just stopped crying. Like, what the hell?
John Silver crying, and then Hangman
Yep.
Page started crying, and I was like, dude, that's so much. And it's just, it's like when wrestling becomes real like that, it's, to me, it's these permanently like stuck in my head. I'm like, I can't believe, like a man, like a human being just passed away, and like this is real. Like his sons don't have a father anymore. Like it's a lot, man, and that's why I think I'm always gonna take pro wrestling serious because of its real moments like that.
Oh, something as simple as Shad Gaspar, like the tribute thing they did to him, dude. I lost it then too, and I'm like, I'm not even the biggest fan of him as a wrestler, but as a person and a human being, literally making the decision of save my kid, like don't worry about me, it's fine, and that's the last thing he did. It's like that is just like storybook, and it just it's crazy. You know what I mean? Like that when they did that dedication to him for the Warrior Award, it's the same thing along the lines of Brody. It's like, damn, dude, like these people don't have their fathers anymore. It's not even about wrestling. It's about, people are missing their husbands, their fathers, their brother, their children. And it's like, it just, I know it's not storyline, but it just blurs that line of reality of like, yes, this guy was, you know, a larger than life wrestler, but at the end of the day, he was John Huber, who was, you know, a wife, or they had a wife, had kids, had all this outside of wrestling, and he was so loved in the business. You know what I mean? Like it just
Yeah,
chill. Yeah, like you said, chills, dude. Like ugh, man.
you know, and it's the real moments like that. And like I was, man, I one thing I didn't like doing was watching Dark Side of the Ring during the pandemic. Like watching the Owen Hart shit, dude. Oh my god.
Oh,
Oh,
The Owen Hart, the
mhm.
the Chris Benoit documentary, and that certain part of just Eddie, because
Yep.
that part was intense when like Chavo Guerrero was giving the in-depth details of
Mhm.
like, and
Yeah,
Eddie Guerrero's gimmick.
Chavo's like he's still warm. You know, he's still
Yeah.
like when I got there, he was still warm. Like he was still, and you know, it's like, oh
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
oh
and
man,
that's why I'm grateful because in my very first match in wrestling, my very first match in wrestling, I was able to pray with Chavo Guerrero Sr.
that's
We
oh
got
awesome.
that's
into a
cool, dude.
circle, yeah, and we got to pray, and I was like, dude, this is the brother of Eddie Guerrero. So that's this type of shit that like I take with me, and it's gonna stay with me forever. Now, God rest his soul, he's no longer here. Like it's just those things that in life you just can't write, and you know, with everything, man, with everything, that's why like I'm so grateful that like wrestling has provided all these moments and memories for me that are gonna be with me for the rest of my life. Meaning Ricky Steamboat, meaning like the young people that are gonna carry this business forward, like Keith Lee and Ricky Starks and Thunder Rosa. You know, and it's just so cool, man. Like wrestling has been such a, it's just it's a magical thing where you just have to be involved with it. You really have to love wrestling to understand it, and you know, also like you can relate to these characters sometimes, their emotions, their like I enjoyed like the obviously the Daniel Bryan story, like the underdog losing, excuse me, losing the biggest matches, wasn't at the Rumble, like what, like we put him in the elimination chamber, he clearly lost to Randy, and that still wasn't enough, and here he is at WrestleMania, walked in just as a competitor, walked out with both the world title and the early championship. It's just special things like that, man.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking back on those moments and thinking like that actually happened. And I still remember how happy I was when it happened.
And then you
And
had, you know, Connor, you know, at ringside
exactly.
with that and everything. Yeah, I
That's
think,
even more special.
yeah, you know, wrestling, yeah, does, you know, bring a special moment. It's a little bit of everything. It's sport, it's entertainment, it's art, it's, you know, creativity. It's, I don't like people that don't watch wrestling don't understand like what wrestling is. It's just, it's more than people beating each other in tights. It's a lot more than that. I don't think people really understand that, but it's really gotten us through some of our dark moments, you know, in life. Like, you know, you mentioned it, us, you know, doing this podcast has been a lifesaver for me. I can't speak for you guys, but for me in general, I know Roland, you've had your, you know, personal issues and stuff. So, you know, wrestling, you know, it heals people. I think, you know, it might be strange to say, but I think it does.
Yeah, it's, you know, that's I've made so many great friends because of wrestling. I've had my darkest moments where when my parents were going through a divorce, wrestling was there. When, you know, things weren't okay with someone, or you know, wrestling was just always there. And wrestling has still been here, not just for me but for a lot of other people, man. And it's a, once again, I'm gonna cherish it, and you know, I hope my son grows up to, you know, watch it and love it just as much as I do. I don't want to force him into it because it is pretty, it's a hectic business. um but once again, you really gotta love it. If you want it, you're gonna have to roll with the punches. And man, I roll with the punches. Like I enjoyed getting hit. Like I've endured so much pain in my actual life that being hit and slammed around by some dude is not really gonna hurt me. You know,
Mhm.
words aren't gonna hurt me. Any physical pain. Like I've seen some stuff. Like I've already had some tough moments with my son. Like seeing the shit that he's gone through. Like I'm angry, so now I feel bad for the guy I'm gonna face because I'm gonna be thinking of all the shit I went through these last 2 years,
Mhm.
right? All the pain I'm gonna just be giving out, leashing out, unleashing to everyone else. I'm just gonna be kicking people in the chest. I'm gonna be punching people in the mouth. Like
Yeah.
I
Kick
like
their
to,
fucking head in.
yeah, dude. And there's some people that, all the wrestlers that are like, yeah, let's fucking fight. Obviously, I like to take care of my opponents, and I never want to hurt anyone intentionally. That's why I like people that are similar, like minded, like me. That like, if we beat the fuck out of each other, like, can can we not, lose our shit? Like, oh my gosh, he actually laid that in. No, I'll be like, okay, oh cool, he laid that in. That's like the sign to go at it. And I think that's like why, to me, my biggest dream match is always gonna be Bryan Danielson. Right under Bryan Danielson is gonna be Shibata. Just like the stiffest wrestlers ever. Like right under Shibata, Minoru Suzuki. Like just people that are just gonna lay it in. And
5 rounds.
yeah, man,
No wonder you
you
want to
want
go to
feel
New
that.
Japan. You just want to get the shit kicked out of you.
It humbles you. You get me? It humbles you. You're not the toughest guy in the room. Or not the toughest guy at all. But
you're talking to the guy who took like one front bump to be funny when he had too many drinks and broke a rib. So I'm not the. I don't need a lot to get humbled.
Thanks, Jericho Cruz.
Yeah, right. Don't worry, I signed a waiver. I can't sue.
good job for the freaking waiver, dude. No, I mean,
Hey, how honestly cool is it going to be though in a year or two when you're wrestling a match and you can look up and you see your kid, clapping and he realizes he's watching his dad in there and you talk about guys like Goldberg coming back like and we shit on Goldberg a lot for a lot of the stuff that's happened recently. He came back for the right reasons though. He came back. He literally said, he's like, my kids never seen me wrestle, and that's why I'm getting that. I mean, that was one of the reasons why Shawn Michaels came back. He wanted to show his son, So like, how cool of a moment? I mean, I know you're a big Shawn fan too. Like, how cool is that going to be able to watch your son grow with you? Actually watching you have matches and being able to have those moments.
I think about it all the time, and ever since he was born, like in fact, when he was born, literally hours after Rampage was on, and the first match that technically me and my son saw together was Bryan Danielson versus Eddie Kingston.
Awesome.
He's been out in this world for like 14 hours.
Yeah.
Here we are watching Bryan Danielson and Eddie Kingston on Rampage at the hospital in our room. And it's just once again moments like that won't be taken away from me.
I have a picture, not to cut you off. I have a picture of me holding one of the twins because they were in the NICU for about 7 days, watching WrestleMania because they were born on March 31st. So I have my laptop over here, and my wife took a picture as I'm holding one here, and I'm leaning back and I'm watching the WrestleMania from that year. So like, incredible. Like I feel that like to a T, dude. I feel that like that's
beautiful. Yeah. That's beautiful, man. That's so sick. That is really beautiful. And to me, one of the stories where I could relate was Hangman, because Hangman, like me and Hangman had a baby around the same time, because his baby was like 7 months, mine's 6, so it's like 1 month apart. And I understand like his mental issues, like his mental health issues, like it's a real thing. Like he was never really like all that confident, but he had to build up this confidence, and now he has to be confident because he has a son, because he's a dad now, because he's a champion. So he has to elevate himself more for the sake of him and his family and the company. He's holding it all on his back right now. And I think it's so cool because you can relate to these characters, these actual people. CM Punk coming back after 7 years. It's only been 2 years for me, but fucking shit. One of my favorite wrestlers is Punk. Hangman Page being a father and just trying his best. I can relate to Hangman. Bryan Danielson too, just being like, hey, I'm a dad, but I can beat the shit out of you. Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley, Cody Rhodes, like these wrestlers that are dads, but that are still out there wrestling, but they're still dads. I always joke around with my fiance, and I'm like, look, I'm holding Cody, because I'm like, I love Dusty Rhodes. So I skipped Dustin. I was like, this is Cody. And I just it's cool, man. It's cool. Like I just hope that I'm able to do what you were saying that like my son can see me, and also one quick thing talking about like father and son in wrestling. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that photo of like Jungle Boy when he had wrestled in PWG and his dad, um, what was it, Luke
Luke
Perry?
Perry, yeah.
Luke Perry.
Yeah, Luke Perry.
And Luke Perry's there watching Jungle Boy, like on the second rope, and the people are losing their shit. And I was like one of the last photos before Luke passed away. I was like, that is so beautiful. Like that's one of those
Yeah.
things that's like, I don't know, like did Luke himself know, like, man, my son's gonna be a fucking star, and Lord and behold, he is. Jungle Boy is so great.
They also have that famous one. They were at SummerSlam. You said your connection to SummerSlam, where Jungle Boy's a little kid and Luke Perry's, there in the crowd, and you're like, wow, he's a star now. And then his dad saved David Arquette's life at GCW. Him and Nick Gage David Arquette were having a match, and David Arquette got gigged really bad, and they like nicked his throat or something.
Yeah.
And Luke Perry was able to get him to the hospital, but Jungle Boy was there because he was working there that night. So it's crazy to think of all the connection to the past and the present that this all intertwines. And, hopefully one day you can, like Roland said, you can get that iconic moment of maybe someone gets to picture you on the turnbuckle with one of your many belts that you're holding in the cover picture here, and your son clapping and cheering you on.
Yeah, dude, it's man. I'm waiting for that moment. I'm working for that moment, and right now I can't wait to just I got really close to, not to get too religious or anything, but like throughout the years with not being able to wrestle, I got like a closer connection, a closer relationship with God. And like I'm just praying to be the best version of myself, the best version of being a dad, best version of being a man, best version of being a future husband, best version of being a pro wrestler. And I just want to be able to wrestle again and provide for my family now. This to me is a brand new chapter of this life, and I just hope that I can do proud my son and my fiance, know that like even though the obstacles and it's like there was a lot of fucking shit we had to endure to just even get close to remotely saying we can do this, as opposed to actually doing it. Actions speak louder than words, and I've been talking for so long, man, but there hasn't been any action. So I think I'm ready. I think right now I haven't been this ready in years. This is the first time where I feel like I'm actually ready, and I think I proved that to myself earlier this month when I took the bumps, when I got into the ring and just said, yeah, I can still do this.
Absolutely.
And,
We hope to see you in the ring soon.
Yeah, man, I'll go up to North Carolina. I'll go up anywhere.
Yeah. So Limitless Wrestling in Maine, if you're listening, Randy Carver, you can fly him. That's the promoter. If you want to look on Twitter, that's the promoter, Randy Carver. Just kidding.
On my way already, man.
Well, and here's the other thing too. Like once you have that first match back, we would love to have you back just to talk about that. Like just to pick your brain, even if it's only like a special episode kind of thing. Like that would be really cool to be like, hey,
100%.
We persevered through this 2+ year pandemic, all this stuff happened, and I made my triumphant return. We'll ask you how the match went, if you thought because you were already talking about you have all this stuff in your head of how you want it to go and what you want to do and everything else. So like it would be really cool to like pick your brain after to be like, hey, did it go like you think? Was there certain spots you were worried about? Like that would be really cool, I think.
No, 100%. You guys have been a part of this journey, man. And it's crazy because now here we are 2 years later, and it's different from 2 years ago.
Right.
Like it's all these things, man, and it blows my mind. So who knows? Maybe it's 2 weeks from now, 2 months from now. So let's hope that we can come back for this third time and see how my first match back went. And I hope and pray that we were able to have that conversation and talk about it, man. Because what you guys are doing is super cool. You guys are are showcasing and bringing light into the positive side of wrestling. I know you guys may shit on one another and whatever, but at the end of the day, it's all love for the one sport. Um, it's just it's wrestling, man. It's brought us together. You know, I live here in Texas, and you guys are. We're all over the place, but we're kind of like we're like united. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot that we can relate to one another, like being dads and or just being overall just a huge fan of this business. So, you know, we've I think we've touched base on everything, and it's cool to get that off my chest too. This has been like very therapeutic and very fun.
Well, and it's crazy to look back to, like, we interviewed you the first time, literally March 28th, 2020, and you had just told us that, you know, March 13th, you said was the last time you had. So, I mean, even then you didn't know, you know, that was the start of the pandemic. You didn't know you weren't going to be in the ring. Like, I remember us talking about stuff you had coming up, and then that stuff went away, and it's crazy to look back on that. And, you know, as we kind of wind down here, I think it's important to just think about the message you're sending here for everybody. And it's not even it's about life, literally, like, not to try to be corny and use your you know, wrestling name here. It really is. It's about real life situations and how to persevere. And, you know, think of the big picture. You know, we're talking to someone here, you know, that has persevered through all of that and is talking about getting in the ring almost a little over 2 years later. Like that, if that doesn't show you how dedication and how, you know, perseverance and stuff, like, if that's not a big enough influence in your life, then I don't know what is. Because there were times you were talking where I was starting to tear up listening to some of the stuff you were talking about, just because I can relate, you know, being a parent, certain things of, you know, how you felt, you know, of battling, you know, mental health issues, being stuck in your house and all this stuff. So, like, this podcast, like Tim said, it was the one thing I looked forward to every week. You know, it's like, sweet, I can't wait. I can't wait to watch a show. Can't wait to talk to the guys. Like, it's normalcy, you know?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know,
So it was. Oh, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Oh no. I was just trying to say, you know, how grateful I am that you guys have this platform, and I mean, I'm more sure there's other platforms like this, where it's just a bunch of friends talking about wrestling and, you know, bringing light on different topics. And, you know, I think I'm just grateful for the fact that you guys are continuing this, and I hope you guys continue to do this. The way you guys are doing it, just it's super cool, man. So just thank you for having me. It's super cool.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
No, thank you for joining us.
I personally think it's super cool that he thinks it's super cool. So
Yeah. Well, honestly, I was just about to say, I think we've done a lot of great episodes. I think this is probably the best episode we've ever done, because I think we've had a lot of just the message, the lessons that you can learn from listening to your story. It's applicable to everybody, I think, in daily life. So I think this is one of our best, if not the best episode we've done. So thank you for coming on.
Tim, he already said he'd come back. It's okay.
I know. Before we let you go, though, you have a pro wrestling tees store. It's prowrestlingtees.com/OnThinLife. Is that correct?
Yes,
there
sir.
you go. It's down at the bottom here.
I love it. It's so sick.
Awesome.
Hey, you're gonna see it. You're gonna see it on our clip. You're gonna see it on TikTok. It's gonna be everywhere, because Mongo, like we mentioned before we took air, that dude is a renegade for literally every social platform. If even if it didn't work out with the show, we have a reason to have him here, because, like, he has taken us to the next level. Like, we're on so many platforms now, and I know we crap on each other. I'm just giving him some credit, because if it wasn't for him, I know that, like, I'll post on Facebook here and there, but I'm not very active on Twitter. I'm not very active on TikTok. Like, I'll watch videos, but I don't post anything. So, like, you know, it's just, you know, without him, we wouldn't have it. And I want to
props to
give him the props.
It's consistency, man. Consistency is really hard, especially with social media. So 100% props to you. I wish I had like a team, not just like I wish I had someone that can run my social media for me, because I am terrible at it. I am so bad at it. I try my best. I try to be creative, but at the end, I can't be that consistent. Not anymore. I don't have the time.
Oh, and speaking of the Pro Wrestling Tees store, one of us placed an order during this podcast, so
Oh man,
I got the original shirt because I figured that
Oh,
was
that's
that
the
was the
best
way
seller.
to go with it, man. So
Yeah, that's the one that sold the most during the pandemic. I don't know why. I got so many like DMs, and I've been meaning to, make like a video or like a post of all the people like I've gotten all these fans taking pictures with the shirt on, and it's just so cool, man. Like it's just so cool to see. Like I've gotten so many like, and I'm always meaning to put them up. But I mean, out of respect, I'm gonna ask for permission out of everyone that's purchased a T-shirt. But I mean, thank you to anyone that's ever purchased, man. Like you guys are feeding my son now, so thank you. Back then you guys were just feeding me, but now all the proceeds go to my son and the bills and everything. So I can't wait to just be able to give back at least and um, provide for the wrestling business. Anything I'm able to provide for the wrestling business, I'll do because the wrestling business has provided me a lot of stuff. So thank you guys so much for the support. I really do appreciate it.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for joining us. Jonathan Life, everyone. Follow him on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Jonathan Life 1. Thank you so much for joining us once again.
Thank you. It's so much fun, man. Thank you so much.
This has been great. Coming up for you guys next week, we are going back to the E. We're going to cover Insurrection 01. It was a UK only pay-per-view. You got The Undertaker and against the two-man power trip on top there as the main event. So that's coming for you guys next week. Mongo, Roland, any final words before we head on out of here?
No, but let's include Jonathan in our sign off. I think he's earned it.
Yeah, let's do it, Jonathan. All right.
Hey, let's hold on. No, let's get him to do the sign off. Let's let him to literally do this has been Wrestling with Wrestling. Let's let him say that part. How's that?
All right, let's do it.
He can lead with his name first. We'll do it that way.
Wrestling with okay.
He's got to warm up first.
You gotta warm up.
Yeah.
I screwed this up a couple of days ago, or a couple weeks ago. So don't worry about it.
Well, before we sign off, just thank you guys. I hope I'm able to get a few friends of mine. I have this. He's my tag team partner. His name's Bill Dempsey. I would like for you guys to have him. He has an incredible story. I don't want to share too much detail. Just the fact that he did. Unfortunately, like his father passed due to cancer. And he still wrestled. I just think his story is so beautiful. And he's my absolute best friend in wrestling, in and out. So I hope I'll talk to him, and I would just like for him to talk to you guys about his experience with that. So I'll after this I'll make sure to message you guys on Instagram and stuff to give you his info. But his story, man, his progress, everything is something that I would like for everyone to hear. And my followers listening to this probably know a little bit about him, but if we can get more details by sharing your guys' stuff, that'd be so cool. So
awesome, appreciate it.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, do I do the sign up?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do it up.
All right. Thank you guys for watching Wrestling with Wrestling Past and Present. This is Jonathan Life signing off, saying thank you and goodbye.